the original Season 3, Episode 15, An Old Friend Calls. I think this was a really cool episode with the way they tied it in to the Vampire Diaries from last week. As I mentioned, they had it where in the Vampire Diaries they did the 3-year skip, and basically Klaus has been missing for 3 years in that opening scene from last week. And I was like, okay, there has to be some tie-in. I mean, obviously it's in the same universe, so it's gonna tie in. We're gonna get to see Klaus leave the show when that happens. And I was thinking they might hold off on that for a long time. Like, they might save it for the finale, or maybe even save it for next season, because they can do 2 seasons and technically, it can still be within the same year. It was like, nope, they kind of introduced that idea last week in the Vampire Diaries, and then it was like, alright, he's leaving, he's out, because all his enemies are coming to town. And I love the fact that they did that, but I'm really curious how things are going to play out now. And I love the way that the episode ended, because I don't know where the heck Finn just came from out of nowhere. I was like, okay, I don't know how that happened, but he's alive. Unfortunately, we have to wait until April. I don't know what's going on with all these CW breaks, but most of the shows went on break last week and won't be back until, like, I think the 22nd of this month, the week of the 22nd, and now we have Vampire Diaries and the originals going off until April 1st for some weird reason. But I'm very excited for the show to come back, and I like the way that they did things, where we have, of course, Cole comes back. So I thought the way they were going to do it was, Klaus is going to leave out, Cole is now in, so it would be, it's no longer like the original vampires, it's like just the original family, so it's the Michelsons. So we have Elijah still, we'd have Freya, and then we have Cole. And then Finn came in at the end, so it's like, okay, we still have, 3 original vampires as well. Although he's never really been a part of the whole always and forever sort of deal. He kind of switched once their mom switched and wanted to kind of kill them all off. He was like, alright, screw you guys. So he's going to be an issue. We have, I believe there were probably like 6 or 7 dots total, maybe 8 total, and one has been killed off, which really surprised me, but they killed off the guy in this episode. And so we still have all the other, little blood dots coming in to New Orleans, because everyone knows that Klaus can be killed and it won't affect them. And they know that there's a bit of white oak still out there, which I love the fact that Vincent even found it at the end. He actually got the answer from the ancients at the end of this episode when he's kind of safe and alone. So he has the answer. He has this final single one little bullet, which I don't know why it was inside of salt. The only thing I know about salt is that it stops ghosts, and that's because of supernatural. So I'm not sure why it was in a salt shaker, but it was. But that's our final piece of white oak. Aurora hid one single bullet, and it's like the one thing. And I don't know if Vincent is gonna, if there's some sort of multiplication spell or something that he can create. A bunch of bullets and stuff, and then maybe, just have powder and use it like stakes or whatever, types of weapons he wants to make. But he has this bullet. He kind of, at this part, he has like the holy grail that every character needs in this series. So I have no idea how things are going to play out, but I'm very excited to see. We have a bunch of old, I'm assuming all these vampires are going to be really, really old, so they're all going to be very strong. Most likely stronger than every character outside of probably Elijah and Cole, possibly Finn as well. I would assume Finn, because he's an original. But stronger than all the Strix, most likely. I mean, it kind of varies, because some of the Strix are very old, and seemingly none of the Strix were important outside of Aya, and now that she's gone, I don't think the Strix the Strix are really going to be that big of a deal. They'll be in the background as an issue, because, of course, like this episode is like, we've lost some of our best people, and we want to find out, who's killing them off. So they'll, of course, still be in the background, and especially now with all of Klaus's enemies coming into town. As Klaus even said, some of them might want to come here to kill you, because they know we're all sticking together. So it could still be the Strix are very important in protecting Elijah, and despite the fact that he has a big group of vampires wanting to protect their Scion since they're still connected to him, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be easy. We could still have a ton of really strong villains like we had in this episode. And like I said, I was very surprised they killed that guy off. He certainly was evil. I thought he had like a kind of a cool villainous, kind of villain motive to him. And like the way he did stuff where he would, like how he silenced the whole bar. I was like, I like to eat in utter silence, and because it helps me think. So he compelled everyone in the bar. Like when he killed all those women in the limo, he tells the guy like, "Oh, take care of my friends." Had that guy compelled, and then so he's just putting gasoline all over the car, and then on himself, and they all just burn up in the crisp, and he just walks away for whatever reason. I'm pretty sure they were like on an airfield or at like an airplane hangar area or something. That's what it looked like to me. It looked like he came straight off an airplane or something like that. So I don't know where they were, but it was some big open place with just like concrete on the ground. So I'm pretty sure that's where they were. But I like this character, and I was surprised he died. And then that led to, because of kind of the way he plays things out, where it's like, oh, they'll kill someone, they'll kill these people off if you kill me or stop Vincent from finding the White Oak for me. But ultimately, that leads to Cammy kind of sending Klaus away, saying like, I don't have feelings for you, which really surprised me. And then we find out that was actually a lie, because she was basically separating herself, not because she doesn't still have feelings for him, but because he just issues. Like, that was basically her answer. It was like, he kills people, I don't like that, and then plus he just has a billion enemies, and that just causes more innocent people to die. So she just officially decided, you know what, I'm powerful, especially because she's powerful enough to protect herself, and the fact that he left Aurora alive. They're just like compounding things, but it's like she wants to get a revenge on Aurora, and she can protect herself, and he continues to get people killed, and he doesn't really care, even killing 3 to spare 30 type of deal. Which I thought if he had the time to break all their necks, he'd have time to like flick a knife out of their hands, because it's not like he can. I would assume he can get stabbed, but if he's the one like using the force, he could just be like boom and flick his hand, and the knife would just fly off out of off into the bar. But it was like, nope, he snapped all 3 of their necks instead, which I feel like would have been the same amount of speed as just yanking their arms away and knocking them to the ground, or just grabbing them and just throwing them to the ground like by their arms so they can't possibly cut the person's throat. Just grab them like basically by the hand, flip them all 3 of them down. It's like problem solved, and then compel them because he's an original. If I remember right, he can overwrite anyone's compulsion because he's an original. But I thought it was interesting that she lied to him, and she and Vincent are still just they just like kind of hang out, which I find very funny sometimes, because he's helping her like train and stuff in the beginning, and she's kind of dealing with her issues, which I thought were really cool. I like the fact that she had honestly logical issues, because of course when people don't die off in the show, that does mean that they're going to come back, and I doubt she'll come back anytime soon. But I mean, even Cammy says like it's eventually, like she's honestly thinking just way down the line, because Aurora's so much tougher than her because she's way older, she wouldn't be able to beat her, but she has to at least really defend herself. So I just love the fact that she was dealing kind of with her own paranoia, just like Klaus was, and how she mentions that really early on. I was like, that's actually very cool, and it makes a ton of sense, because he let Aurora live, and she ultimately, it's like, yeah, she took my humanity from me, like me literally being a human, but ultimately I just want her dead. Like, I'm fine, I just need her, I want her dead because I don't want her coming after me. So I love the fact that they put that in there, because it makes a lot of sense when you have basically the first ever normal vampire, one of the first ever normal vampires, who's clearly just like infinitely stronger than you are, knowing that they're still alive even if they're withering away. It's just like, there's a possibility that they'll come after me, and that bothered her so much that she did the things she did in this episode. And I thought it made perfect sense, and I was like, yeah, it was more about his form of revenge than her getting the revenge she felt she truly deserved, which was just getting rid of Aurora 100%. But I certainly enjoyed that. Haley kind of going on the rampage, I thought was actually pretty cool, and she's getting revenge on specifically the streaks that took her and Jackson down, when basically led to his death. So I thought that was really cool. Great way to finish it out too, because Elijah is like, alright, we have this guy, we'll say he's the one that did it. I'll kill off the rest of these streaks that she has on her list, because that way it'll avoid war, and she'll get what she wants as well. And then he sits down, and she's like, the first thing she says is like, I love you. And I was like, holy crap, I couldn't believe that happened. And then it got super depressing because she's like, I've always loved you and stuff, but basically, like Jackson loved me despite me loving you. And every time I think about how I love you, I think about how I just destroyed him, or like how I was hurting him all this time. So it's just like, that is so depressing. And she ultimately had to give it up. I was like, man, they will not let them be together. And now she's going off with Klaus and Hope. And I'm assuming they're going to be gone in 3 years, like they mentioned in the Vampire Diaries. So I'm like, I don't even know what to think about that. And they could easily come back, and Klaus could still, be gone for 3 years. But it does make sense that they take Hope. I was surprised at first because I wasn't even thinking, because when he mentions, like, you don't have to tell me how precious my cargo is, I was like, okay, that definitely means Hope, but that's really weird. And then Haley was in the car. I was like, oh, I guess I probably should have knew that instantly. But it was just really good. I like the way they ended it. And she's like, I don't really have anything here left for me. And he's like, well, I guess we have more in common than we thought. And they take off. So they're going to be gone, I would assume, this whole time. We might get to, see what they're doing here and there. But it's going to focus on taking out whoever these new, old vampires are coming into the city. So very excited about that. Cole not having any self-control. Knew that was going to happen. Well, of course, once he had the bag, it was like, oh, he's going to kill somebody now. So that sucks for him because he is actually trying to change for Davina and it's not working. And once again, the whole Finn thing, I'm super confused by that. I have no idea how that happened unless there's something I missed that I just don't remember. But I don't know, he's back. So that kind of blew my mind. Like, he shows up, I was just like, what in the world is happening right now? But looking forward to the next episode for sure. Definitely love this one. With these other, multiple vampires coming in, I'm sure there will be some that are specifically targeting Elijah. So I'm kind of curious about that and getting a bit more backstory. We didn't see Lucian in this, and they mentioned, like Elijah mentions, like the only people that care about protecting you are in this room. And I'm like, where's Lucian at? Because I was wondering, would he still care at all, or would he just take off? Kind of what's the case there. But we might see him come back into play. We might not. But definitely want to know what you guys thought about this episode. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, least favorite parts. And what do you guys think is going to happen now that Haley and Klaus have kind of left the show with Hope? Do you guys think they'll be gone for a very long time? Considering what they're doing with the Vampire Diaries, I don't know if they're going to eventually just jump 3 years, and they might do the same for the Vampire Diaries, or do the same for the originals. But I want to know your guesses on how that's going to play out. Are they just going to be, like, not in the show whatsoever, or what's going to happen with them? Because that's a huge deal to take out, especially both those characters. If it was just Klaus and Haley and Hope were kind of still in the city, it would still, that's one thing. But you have like all three of those characters kind of taking off, and of course Klaus and Elijah were like kind of the main two. So now we just have Elijah and we have Freya, and of course we have the other characters kind of rotating in, which I think is very awesome the way they kind of played around with the idea. But I want to know how you guys think that's really going to play out. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.